What's up, everyone? This is Thomas Edwards from thomasedwardsjr.com and founder of the Professional Wingman. Welcome to the Weekly Intention, where I teach people how to live a better life right now using practical lessons and strategies from personal stories. So today, we're talking about what you're doing through life. Are you surviving, striving, or striding? After a great weekend that I had seeing Avengers Endgame and spending time with friends and loved ones and a lot of just adventures and challenges, I've been in a lot of reflection today. And I felt inspired by one of the many things that have come up. And I want to share this with you from a conversation that I had with one of my coaches. We talked about various levels of success. Whatever success means to you, just consider this idea that it's usually talked about within these three stages. First stage is scarcity. Then we talk about abundance, and then we get into prosperity. Now, for so long in my personal life, I lived at that lowest level, scarcity. It was all I've known, and trying to get into abundance was really my goal, my life's mission, when in reality, we're all abundant. We're all abundant beings, and it's just a matter of being able to tap into that, to allow yourself to be in that state. But it got me thinking, and it made me think about how scarcity, abundance, and prosperity are actually ways of being. They're states of mindfulness, which don't require really anything tangible. Just think about it. What do you really need physically to feel scarce or abundant or even prosperous? And so while you think about that for a little bit, I want to also highlight this idea that there are always going to be ways of being that are intangible, but at the end of the day, we're productive people, we're productive human beings, and so we want to understand the ways of being productive, right? The states of production and the ways of doing. So what are those states? What are they? And so my coach and I had this conversation, and he taught me these states. And so the states that we're talking about here are surviving, striving, and striding towards goals and targets. Surviving is simply doing what it takes to manage within the current conditions of your life so you can continue to exist. I think this is pretty straightforward. When you're surviving, you are doing the bare minimum or the bare maximum, depending on your conditions, to exist, to make sure that you can live another day. So that way your conditions of where you are don't get worse. And now striving. Striving is basically struggling, or you're fighting very, very hard to either get out of your current condition. This is very different than surviving, because when you're surviving, there's no choice of getting out of your current condition. You're actually doing the bare necessities around being able to stay in that condition. Because if you don't, it can get worse. Whereas striving, you're struggling, you want out, and you're fighting very hard to get out, and it tends to be this everlasting mission of yours to get out of your current conditions. And then striding. Striding is taking long, decisive steps in a very specific direction toward whatever target or goal you set. And I thought to myself, wow, this is so interesting, the idea of taking strides, right? Strides is a matter of taking steps, going up different levels, or just making some type of level of progress towards that specific goal or target that you set for yourself. And many of us are constantly in this state of survival. I know that I grew up in a scarcity mindset. It was all I knew. And I didn't really understand anything else in terms of what I was taught except how to survive. And the reality is, for many generations within my family, that was their only goal, was to survive. And if you look back to just even prehistoric days, right? Human beings, their only state of doing was to survive. It was survive being killed. It was surviving being murdered. It was survive being eaten, right? And so those things still carry with us. Now, of course, society, history and laws and wars and so many other significant events historically have happened and have shifted how we see survival, whether it's through race, culture, religion, and so on. But for my family history, a lot of this was survival. I mean, my parents, moved from Jamaica to America, and I was the only American born because their idea was they wanted to put me in a place where I didn't have to be in that state of survival. Yet, how can they teach me that if they didn't know how to do that themselves? And so that was a really interesting thing that I've discovered over time, and that was their only choice, but they wanted to at least put me in a place where I could see different possibilities, yet they were still teaching me this. So living as an adult, living even now in today's world, where I didn't have to live have that survival or scarcity mindset, I didn't understand how to do otherwise. So survival was all I knew, and my behavior dictated that. In terms of just my rationale, my decision making, my logic, my behavior. Even sometimes when I would fake, really, or practice, if I will, trying to, keyword there, trying to be in a place where I wasn't surviving, wasn't scarce, but internally, my state of being was all around scarcity, and that would still push through in terms of how I was doing, which was essentially surviving. And if I was able to break out of that, I was definitely striving. I was definitely fighting hard and struggling to get out of my current conditions with no way of how to do that. And it wasn't until I set up systems, routine, structure, and accountability with coaches and teams that allowed me to see a place where I didn't have to survive. I didn't have to strive. I can actually set goals, set targets, and make strides toward them until I reach them. And when I made those strides toward them, it placed myself in a natural state of abundance. So I'm no longer in this place of scarcity. I'm able to consistently be in this natural place of abundance, which we all inherently are born in. And it leads me to as I continue this process, it'll lead me to eventually what will become a state of prosperity every time I hit or a target or a goal. So the lesson I want to share with you around all of this is, no matter where you are in your life, you have a choice of whether you'd like to survive, strive, or strive. Now, of course, there are going to be anomalies or very specific situations that can dictate this, but I'm talking to someone who understands that they have something that they can do. They know that they have something they can do, and they haven't been able to access the power. Maybe they felt scared. Maybe you feel scared about going from that place of survival into even striving or even into striding, setting up a plan, taking action, knowing that there's commitment and sacrifices that will necessarily need to happen in order to get there. Maybe there's reluctance and hesitation around that survival. I mean, I know exactly what all of that means and how that feels. I mean, when it came to my body and how I was just not treating it well by not working out, not being active enough, eating really crappy food, not eating enough or even overeating, and just being in this place where every time I was hungry, I just ate whatever I was around because I needed that for sustenance. I needed that to survive. And when I decided to go through this place of trying to figure out what's a good way for my body to live and exist and be powerful, I was striving. I would take on these fashion type dieting fads, and it would work in the short term, but long term I was back to whatever I was doing before, and there weren't any lasting results. And it wasn't until I decided to put some structure around what I was eating, how I was working out, the amount of times I was working out, the frequency, what other activities getting myself into, and I had support around that allowed me to actually take strides, which is where I'm able to be at, having lost 16 pounds. And also, when I think about drinking, not being able, it's been over 100 days since the time of this recording that I haven't had a drink. Now, there was a previous circumstance where I couldn't even go 7 days. And drinking became a part of my survival. Drinking became a part of my existence. And to take that out, to take a part of your existence out of you, immediately you're going to be in this place of survival and you're going to behave differently. And what made it really simple for me was just to set a goal. Just don't drink for a day. See what happens. And sure enough, I was able to accomplish that. And then, hey, let's not drink today. And just making that the stride that I take. Not going to be a place of strive. Because when I strive and I think I'm not going to drink for 1,000 days when I haven't even drank once, and I haven't gone one day without drinking, that's striving. That creates a situation where I'm going to strive and struggle, and eventually it'll break. But if I just choose not to drink for today, or if I choose, you know what, I'm going to have a salad today. I'm going to replace a meal that I normally would eat that is not good for me with a meal that is good for me today. That's a stride. And when you're able to take those many strides, you eventually are able to hit your target. You're able to hit your goals. When it came to my relationship, I knew that we couldn't rebuild our relationship overnight. But the first stride that I had to take was I needed to take my wife out on a date. Let's do that this week. Doing that was a stride. And not trying to do all these things and to overcompensate, which is something that a lot of you do. Even as a single person, a lot of you do that when you're first meeting someone that you're attracted to. You strive because you're fighting vigorously to get their attention, to get their validation, to get that date. And they see it, they feel it, and that's not what they want in their lives. And so they immediately come into a place where they deny you. But when you work on taking an initial stride and say, you know what? Instead of going after all these things, looking for getting a relationship, getting a date, and I don't even know this person, let me just say hi and see what their name is. And if you're able to get to that point, let's see if I can find something in common with them. And if you're able to get to that point, let me see if I can connect with them on an emotional level. And when you're able to make those strides, and you're able to really set a specific, reachable goal or target, and you make strides, you instantly put yourself out of a place of survival because you now have a path of how to immediately get out of that place of survival and to take strides toward eventually what you want, which will be to be in a state of abundance and to reach prosperity and hit your goal, hit your target. But the important thing to understand is there needs to be something to reach for. When you're in survival mode, you can't even see that there's a possibility or a path that you can take because you're so focused on survival. And that's why it's so important to find systems, find structures, find accountability around you that can help you stay focused and to not focus just on trying to survive, but to focus on moving past that into taking strides towards better conditions in your life. So my question for you is, where in your love, lifestyle, leadership, and legacy do you find yourself surviving, constantly in this state of survival, living in this place of scarcity, and still feeling like you have nothing to show for it, and it's burning you out? And what is your intention to create and execute steps towards what it is that you really want? So instead of surviving, you can begin to stride. I really hope you enjoyed this video because I just want to help each of you live a better life full of connection, experiences, value, and purpose. And you can do it much faster than you think or you were taught to believe. And so it's time to get that support. It's time to get that structure and accountability and support around you. Go to thomasedwardsjr.com/talk and you'll get all the information you need to get out of your current situation and into a better life for yourself, for your family, and most importantly, the world. So if you like this video, give me some love, thumbs up, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear this message because if they too can live a better life just with the right intention. All right, guys, that's all I got. So until the next time, this is Thomas saying, keep it simple, be amazing, and live intentionally.